What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the Undergrad Forum. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about how do you handle sleep deprivation, and more realistically, how do you handle it so you can keep working? Because when you're sleep deprived, you don't always get the pleasure of getting to go and sleep and having like a block of large protected sleep time. Sometimes you still have to keep working and making it through. So how do you get through that? How do you do it successfully? All right, now this video is absolutely relevant really to any part of your life. Whether you're like, early on in your academic years and you're still an undergrad and maybe you're studying a lot of hours, or maybe you're doing various extracurricular activities that may be taking up a lot of your time, whatever they are, and you may not be getting a lot of sleep. Or say you're in medical school, basic science or clinical years, you could be getting up really early, getting to the hospital because, you're on a surgery rotation and they make you get there super early. Or you're studying for STEP and you're waking up early and not, sleeping that much. Or maybe you're a resident, much more likely there to be sleep deprived, where, you're getting up early. You could be doing a whole night float system where you're awake at night the whole time and up during, sleeping during the day. Or you have like long call where, you work like 30-hour shifts and then you have like a post-call day. How do you deal with all this? Or say you work like, a normal job. You're in finance, say you live on the West Coast, but, you work in financial markets on the East and on international areas, so you have to be working in different time zones. Could mess with your sleep cycle. How do you notice it? How do you work through it? And then how do you deal with it on a social level? Let's jump right in. Number one, you gotta know when you're sleep deprived. On one hand, that's easy because, I feel like a third party could do a better job of telling you or telling me that I'm sleep deprived sometimes than I can myself. And the rationale behind that is when you're kind of being really driven to push yourself to a point where you're not sleeping enough, that can be difficult to want to admit or have insight into yourself to say, man, I probably am not making the best decisions because I haven't really slept properly in a while or slept at all in a while. Now, the way to kind of look at, on a simple way to look into this, you could just look at your watch, what time did I wake up? When was the last time I went to bed? What was the most whole number of hours that I slept recently? And see how long you've slept and kind of calculate, am I getting enough sleep or not? And, that can really add up, over a week, for example. Say you've been sleeping like, 2 to 4 hours a night every night for a couple of days. Come day 4 or 5, it's kicking in now. You really feel it. Day 1 or 2, you may still be, able to compensate for it. Or, on a more obvious note, maybe you're on long call and, you woke up at 4 a.m. and now it's like 6 a.m. the following day, so it's been 14 hours and you really haven't slept. So, obvious sign that you're sleep deprived. Now, the whole thing about sleep deprivation, it doesn't mean you haven't, slept all day, you've done crazy things. If you're just not getting enough sleep on a consistent basis, well, guess what, man? I'm sorry, you're sleep deprived. May not just be in one day, maybe over the course of a couple days, but you're sleep deprived. Or more classically, you just haven't slept in a day or so, you're sleep deprived. But we don't always get the luxury of being able to go home and take a nap. So, number one, how do you know when you're sleep deprived? Yeah, look at your watch, make sure the timing makes sense. You can easily tell. But if you can't tell that, then look at your whole week and say, okay, how many hours have I been sleeping this week? And, over time, is it enough or is it under my average value of sleep? And if either of those are off, think to yourself, and I would say, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Say to yourself, there's a high likelihood that I'm sleep deprived. You don't have to hedge, oh no, I'm fine. Because if you're hedging with yourself, there's a higher likelihood you're going to make errors. So don't do that. Give yourself a better situation. Assume that you are sleep deprived and plan for it. Kind of having a nice backup plan or a plan B kind of works in your favor. All right, so that's number one, kind of having insight. And if at all you think you're sleep deprived to any degree, just make the call for yourself and say, okay, I'm sleep deprived, whatever. How do I deal with it? Now, that's the really hard part. How do you continue to work when you have to, when you are sleep deprived? Now, an example of that maybe, if you're on call and, you've been up for like, 18 hours and you're getting another page from the ED or something's going on in the ICU, a patient's decomping and you got to run over, you don't have a choice, right? Like, it's you. Maybe you have a senior, maybe you have a junior to help, or maybe you don't. You're alone in-house. You're going to have to figure out how to get around that. The answer really is quite simple. On one hand, you're going to have a natural, adrenaline reaction. You're going to have all these catecholamines going through you. You're going to get energized, even if you're sleep deprived. When you get a phone call from someone that, someone needs to be probably intubated, or someone looks like they're having an acute stroke, you're going to get shocked and you're going to get up and run over. That's naturally going to happen. But there's a big problem there, and this is, I think, the most important part, having insight into this. There is a high likelihood when someone asks you a question late at night or in the middle of the night when you haven't slept for a while, there's a high likelihood that you're going to want to dismiss it. Because all you want to do, say you were sleeping or you're really tired, you want to try to defer work. It's like a natural thing. You haven't slept in a while. All you want to do is relax and take a moment to yourself. And people, calling you, giving you more work, paging you, giving more work, whatever, only makes you more tired. It makes you not want to deal with it. Well, we know your resilience and your desire to want to get things done goes down the more hours you've worked, and also if you are sleep deprived. So what I do is, when I get late night pages, of course, all you want to do is be like, oh, it's fine, we'll deal with it in the morning. But you can't do that. You can sometimes, but you can't just do that blindly. You got to be careful. So the way I deal with that is, whenever I get a late night call, I sit up and I really try to pay attention, hard. I don't just lay there and put the phone here. I just sit up, because I'm like, man, if it's something meaningful and I dismiss it, it's, in an hour it's going to go to hell anyway, so I might as well just deal with it now. So get up, try to wake yourself up a little bit more, really focus on the middle of the night calls. That's when you have to buckle down the most. Middle of the day, 2 p.m., yeah, your brain's working fine. 2:30 a.m. when you just woke up from a 5-minute nap, someone calls you, yeah, guess what? You're not working that great. You're going to need some help. So really try to buckle down when someone wakes you up in the middle of the night, because there's a high likelihood you're going to make an error. And that's the first step that I take. I kind of hedge that there's a likelihood that I'm probably going to make an error. So what I try to do is, whenever it's the middle of the night, I try to buckle down extra hard. Someone pages me, I'm asking questions again. What do you mean the potassium's 2.4? Is the cells hemolyzed? What else is going on? Look at the other labs. Or what do you mean he's not breathing right? You really got to buckle down and just go see the patient. If you're in medicine, just go see the patient. Now, how do you make decisions when you have to, when you're sleep deprived? The number one thing is buckle it down to basics. So if you're working in finance, you're a student, you're a resident in the hospital, and something's going wrong and you're really tired, number one thing to do is just look at, where can someone die, or where can something go horribly wrong? Okay, that's where your focus should always be. You don't need to worry about the nuances of, should I be giving albumin, or what ventilator mode should I use? Just basics. Is the person going into shock? Should I give fluids? Do I need to intubate? Do I need to put in a central line? Are we pushing TPA? Whatever it is this a surgical candidate? Get the basics, and that's all you need to worry about, because that relieves a lot of stress. During the day, you kind of tend to think more elegantly, more broad. You balance multiple things at once. When you know you're tired, forget that style of thinking. You're putting a switch in. Now what you're doing is saying, okay, what are the basics that I need to do? What's going to keep this person alive? What's the basics for this job that I need to incorporate? That's all you need to worry about, all right? So when it's the middle of the night and you have to make decisions, bring it down to the basics. What do I absolutely need to make a decision on? And don't worry about the rest, because the rest can wait. That can wait till morning. It can wait till other people are around. It's usually not critical. Get the core in and then move on. Now, the last part is, how do you deal socially when you're sleep deprived? And this is really important. When you are sleep deprived, guess what? And maybe you're a blessing and an exception to this, but you're probably tired, right? And you're a bit grumpy, okay? I'm grumpy when I'm tired. I feel like most people who I know who are sleep deprived are grumpy when they're tired. You have a shorter attention span. You have less patience. You're not in the mood to mess around. You just want to be left alone usually. When it's 3 a.m., you don't want to be joking around. You want to be left alone so you can rest. Now, how do you deal with that? When I'm tired and I can feel it, or I'm sleep deprived, I make this conscious effort always, whenever I'm interacting with someone, to say, okay, be nice, just give them a chance. When I want to talk, I just give myself a moment before I say anything to try to reduce the chance of saying something rude. Because, it's the middle of the night, you're tired, you're jumpy, you're not in the mood. So you got to kind of hedge. You got to help yourself here. You got to slow down, wait a moment before you reply. Keep telling yourself, all right, man, just be nice. It's the middle of the day for them probably. They're working a 12-hour shift. I'm working a 30. Let's see what they need. Because sometimes you'll get woken up in the middle of the night for silly things, 2:30 a.m. someone calls your VoIP or your phone in the hospital, and they're like, oh, I called the wrong number. And you're like, it's been 15 minutes and I haven't slept all day. Like, really? But, you don't need to say that. So you're just like, okay. And you just, like, put it down and you're like, whatever. Gotta dismiss that. Or they call you for something really silly, like, 3 a.m. Oh, family's here and wants an update. You're like, all right, it's a stable patient. This isn't critical. We can definitely talk, in a couple hours if they don't mind waiting. We'll have the whole day team here. Do you mind just telling them to, come back in the morning? We'll talk. Polite. Just, you got to force yourself. Be polite. No one is going to say, oh, it's okay, you were tired. Guess what? Because you are a professional, no one's ever going to care that you're tired. All right? Irrespective of time, day, or format, because you are a physician, because you're a professional in whatever you do in life, no one's going to care. They're going to expect you to perform at the absolute optimum all the time. So hold yourself to that standard. You can't be yelling at people. You can't be grumpy. You can't be rude. So don't. Tell yourself, everyone expects me to be absolutely amazing. Boy, I better be absolutely amazing. So don't yell at people. Don't complain. Just, deal with people politely. Understand that, yeah, it sucks for you. You gotta, suck it up and take all the tired. But trust me, in the long run, you're going to be seen as like a leader, a professional. People are going to look up to you. You'll get less and less of these silly calls because people will get to know you and they're like, oh, I don't want to bug this guy. He's very nice and smart and polite. Let's leave him alone. Not necessarily me, but I'm sure they'd say that about you. So try your best, be nice, leave them alone. Don't be grumpy. And remember, no one cares that you're tired. They're probably tired too. So don't use it as an excuse. Use it as just a thing to make yourself more conscious. All right, guys, I hope this helped. Let's do a quick recap here. Number one, you got to know when you're sleep deprived. And when in doubt, just hedge, then just say to yourself, you know what, I probably am tired, so I'm going to be hyper aware. And when you are sleep deprived, second thing, when you're making decisions, say to yourself, okay, you know what, I'm tired, I need to buckle down to the basics. When someone calls you or bothers you in the middle of the night, get up and really try to focus. You don't want to miss anything. That's when the highest chance of errors are. And when you are making a decision at a critical moment, bring it down to the basics. Don't worry about subtle nuances right then and there. That's going to distract you. You're too tired for that. Just focus on the basics. What do I need to do to get through this event to make sure everything goes safe and well thought out? And lastly, on a social level, always be polite, man. No one cares that you're tired. You're expected to be a professional. Make yourself proud, make other people proud. You can definitely do it. People have done it before. You can keep leading this, great heritage. All right, guys, if you have any questions or if you have different tips about how to deal with sleep deprivation, throw them down in the comments below. I read every single comment. I thumbs it, I heart it, I'll write something back sometimes. You always get my attention on the comments. I love hearing what you guys have to say. And as always, enjoy your studies.